All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Labor Relations Management Solution Extension webinar today. My name is Aska Sanai, and I'm the Global Deployment Lead here at Sedalis Solutions and subject matter expert within the labor relations space. On the call with us, we also have HR Strategies, which they're our implementation partner. We've done several implementations with them within the labor relations space across different industries. Now, before I start off, I just wanted to quickly go over what Sedalis is as a company. So Sedalis is a recognized as SaaS platform, and we have won the Partner of the Year SAP Pinnacle Awards, which is the ISV Partner of the Year for Innovative Technologies in 2018 and year 2019. We have a lot of global presence across a wide range of highly regulated industries, and that includes the public sector, utilities, manufacturing, construction, healthcare, education, and we have some customers in transportation as well. Now, for Sedalis, because we are built on standard SAP technology, we offer best-in-class security, and that includes encryption. The way that our applications work is we have role-based security. So all of your access, your visibility, your edit rights, your authorizations are fully dependent on the role that you have in the organization, and that helps us to manage the access not just on the field level, but not just on the process level, but also on the field level. So we could utilize those roles to do some to manage some of that configurable workflow that to match your unique needs. Now, the last thing that I wanted to highlight, what Sedalis is a holistic approach with complete integration across all of your business processes. So what I mean by that is not only are we just touching your core HR, but we could be talking to your finance systems, we could be talking to the service center production. We have connectors to integrate with any third-party systems as well, your succession planning to help potentially with policy improvements, your learning programs. So just making sure that we can cover all of that down the stream processes. We can touch upon all of those different areas and have a connected solution across different business imperatives. On the screen here, I have just highlighted some of the key players. These are some of the customers that we've worked with. As you can see, we have several multinational companies that we work with as well. So we do have global experience. And yeah, there's a wide range of customers. Kansas City Railway deployed our labor relations solution. They were one of our oldest customers. We have several customers within the government sector, City of Mississauga, State of California, State of Nevada. So that's something that you could take a look at later on. Now, why is it important to have a preventative approach towards labor relations? Now, obviously, labor relations is a very tedious process. There's several different steps to it, and with that come a lot of operating costs. So as you can see on the screen here, this particular stat is just showing us the range from a company with 100 employees to a company with as many as 2,000 employees. And you can see the range of additional operating costs due to your labor relations and union costs, and that incorporates your training for your staff, for your labor relations teams. That includes attorney fees, arbitration, grievances, the step meetings or negotiations. So again, it could range from 4 million to 2 million US dollars, and that is a high number. So this is why it is important to have an automated process in place which can help with agility, something which is flexible and lightweight, easy to maintain, easy to deploy, and also able to adapt to the quickly changing needs of your organization. As negotiations are taking place from time to time, there are policies that are changing. So we need a platform that could cover that end-to-end life cycle of all of those different processes. Here are some of the business challenges that the labor relations module tackles. So first off, there is secure external collaboration. I did mention we have encryption of data to safeguard any of your employees' private data. But in addition to that, I mentioned there's role-based permissions for the staff that is, or the employees that are maintained in your core HR. But if there is any kind of any individuals who need access to the system who are not part of your core HR, we can provide them external third-party access, an external portal access, and that could include your union representatives. Maybe you want them to be accessing all the notes from your step meetings, but you want to still not give them the rights to go and update anything, but just give them the visibility rights, or maybe some sort of approval process flow that we need to implement. So those are the kind of things that we could talk about during our initial implementation and allow and accommodate for that. Then there is lack of connectivity and adequate reporting. So I did mention that it is important to have the lack of connectivity across your HR systems. That makes the governance and compliance complicated for most of the organizations. So having that connectivity, having that centralized platform is extremely important. And then also being able to look at any kind of analytics, any kind of stats, and just to have transparency across all the different areas within your organization. Third one here is expensive and difficult to maintain. So again, I mentioned this earlier as well. It's very, very important to have full flexibility when it comes to especially unionized environments where we do understand there's constantly changing guidelines, changing policies, and we need a tool which allows business users, without having any kind of technical expertise, to be able to go into the system and make those updates, having a log of who made those updates, when those updates were made, and if there's an approval workflow that needs to be triggered, without incurring any expensive lead times, you're able to make those changes in a flexible manner. Then there's avoidance of any costs associated with union claims or liberation requests. So in some cases, we have employees or organize our customers who have liberation cost requests increased with increased audit hours because companies are having to cross-check hours against payments. And all that manual work going back and forth, increasing your operational costs as well. And then also just avoidance of any kind of union strikes because you're proactively identifying any kind of problematic policies or procedures early on, and you can address those in your future union negotiations. Then there's overwhelming documentation and CBA compliance. So obviously, in a unionized environment, we're dependent on our collective bargain agreements, and there could be pages and pages of those CBAs. When time comes, you have to search through those articles, make reference to them. So we are able to take those CBAs, parse that information, and load it into the system, giving you the ability to maintain those CBAs from time to time. So managing all that documentation, organizing it for you, putting it into a searchable engine for you, so it's streamlining the process of going through these CBAs, and also not just that, but also digitizing any kind of legal correspondence. So any kind of letters that are being exchanged, all that labor-intensive work where you have to sit down and draft letters, which is, there's a lot of back and forth going on. So automating those letter generations by loading letter templates is another challenge that most companies want to fulfill. And then there is having disparate tools for grievances and discipline tracking. So obviously, it's important to have the end-to-end life cycle of these grievances and automation of these processes, and giving control to the end user to utilize these different capabilities and have that automation. Now, another example would be seniority calculations, for example, where there's events that are being tracked on different documents. There's manual processes, everything is being tracked manually, and then there's discrepancies in the seniority calculations, which is another challenge that some of our customers have faced. So having an automated process just allows you to have full transparency into that data, and then avoiding that data from being lost in translation. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions. You can always type up those questions in the chat window, and I'll be happy to address them at any point in time. So yeah, we can do that as well. So again, here I'm just highlighting some of the industry trends which we are fulfilling here. So as you can see, proactive labor relations strategy, I mentioned this previously as well. It's very, very important to have a proactive approach. And how do we do that is by allowing for consistency across all of your labor relations processes, allowing for fair actions. And how do we do that is by increasing automation. When you have automation, there is consistency. So we will be taking a look at some administrative functions later on in the demonstration today, where you could define disciplinary rules beforehand if you have authorizations, so that you have consistency across your management team, eliminating room for bias and discrimination or favoritism. Some of the companies like that, they want to have an automated disciplinary process where the system already knows that if this many instances take place as part of this union or this department, for example, there's different parameters that you can set up, and you're automatically going to be issued the following discipline as a result of that. So having that formula defined by the users that have those permissions and authorizations to allow for consistency in the disciplinary process. And same goes for your grievance processes, for your job bidding, for example. And I did mention previously, there's ways that we can make improvement because we have an integrated platform. So having a centralized platform built on best practices We are able to, and we've actually worked very, very closely with our customers. And since we've worked across different industries, we've studied how these business processes are being performed, how people are performing their day-to-day tasks. And we've really enhanced our product over the years. So what we bring to the table is not just the functionality of the solution, not just the capabilities of the solution, but also the ability to, we recommend the best practices, the best methodologies. We have the business content already available off the shelf for you to pick up and utilize. You could strip and choose elements that are relevant to your organization and your unique requirements. And that makes the process of implementation super fast, and also gives you a wide range of options. So it helps with the, makes it a flexible implementation process. And again, going back to our integration and going back to policy improvements, your downstream business processes, if there is a certain type of grievance that I'm noticing there's a trend, so the system is able to utilize intelligent technologies, and this is where the machine learning kicks in, and this is where you're looking at your predictive insights to say, you know, it looks like these grievances, this particular grievance looks like it's a recurring grievance within this area. So maybe there is a need for safety trainings, or maybe there is a need for a policy improvement, and we could flag those grievances as topics for our future discussion the next time we have a union negotiation. And that is why it's important to have that centralized platform, which is talking to all those systems and fully integrated and impacting all of those downstream business processes. I mentioned secure external collaboration earlier as well with your role-based permissions, and I mentioned encryption as well. So yeah, that's obviously an important piece. And then finally, again, there's legal compliance. So whatever those compliance rules are for your organization, we provide administrative capabilities to go in and define those rules. So if there's any particular timelines that you want to define for each union, and within that range, you need to have certain action take place. To streamline that process, you have full control without reaching out to IT support, without just as a business user, using simple widgets and tools, being able to go and define those rules. And then if there's any kind of policy documents that we need to make reference to, the system has all of that available. On the screen here, we have highlighted some of the key components of the solution. So as you can see, and I mentioned, you can strip and choose elements which are relevant to your organization. So obviously, I've split it up into 3 buckets. We have our grievances and disciplines. We have the job bidding a module with the seniority engine, and then we have the collective bargain agreements. I mentioned that we provide a tool to load up all of your collective bargain agreements, all of your contracts, parse that information and put it into a searchable engine, giving you the ability to maintain those CBAs going forward. And again, we can give access to external union representatives to come in and approve those contracts as well. So whatever those rules are around that, and keeping a log of what updates are being made, what is the previous version of the language, and what is the updated language looking like, all of that is part of the CBA manager. The grievance and disciplines, so covering the entire end-to-end life cycle from the creation of the grievance, and again, you know, any timelines around those grievances, we can define within the tool, or we can give the business users the ability to define those within the tool, which is what's going to be driving those reminders and notifications as our meetings are coming up. Integration with Outlook for those future meetings, which can either be automatically set up, or you could go back in and extend those meeting dates and flexibly change those if, let's say, there is a need for suspension in the timeline. Past precedents, which is very, very important, especially with in these, for the sake of consistency. Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is making sure that all of our current decisions are consistent with the decisions that we've taken in the past. So if we have a certain type of grievance, we can look at the past precedents. Essentially allows you to look at all similar grievances from the past. So I could quickly do a study, get some detail around what the previous decisions were, so that I have some support and just something to make reference to while I'm making these current decisions. Meeting management, and then again, with your disciplinary process, I mentioned we have the automation of disciplines with, obviously, if you want to automate the rules and you can predefine those rules, but we do allow ad hoc disciplines as well, because obviously from company to company, everyone manages disciplines in a different way. So if there's a need to generate different types of disciplinary letters, update those statuses on an ad hoc basis, we do support that as well, which is slightly more advanced. And then something that's more basic is where you would just define those rules using some key parameters and automatically issue those disciplines within the tool. So all of that is available. And then obviously our reports, all the information that's being captured can be reported on in a static report, in a dashboard report. We do support ad hoc reporting capabilities as well. And one thing that I did not mention, all of our applications are device agnostic. So it would simply just adapt to the size of your screen. And if you're using a mobile device or an iPad, you could definitely access the application there. If I want to go in and create a grievance, or I want to apply for a job bid, I could do that on my phone as well. Job bidding with the seniority engine. So we do have a calculation, seniority calculation engine as well. And there could be different ways that we manage seniority, different rules per union. So that's something that we could define. There's the process of posting job bids. A lot of companies want to hire internally, and not just do regular job bidding, but also multi-job bid, which essentially just means that if I am hiring for a certain position and I know I'm hiring internally, it's going to cause a ripple effect and open up a whole bunch of other positions. So I want to, through one bid, I want to process all of these other bids as well. So we support all of the regular job bidding, multi-job bidding, mass bidding as well. And again, there's hundreds of different templates that you could pick up and utilize. There's business content that is readily available. So that makes the process easy. And the process of choosing your top candidates and awarding them bids, and setting up any kind of eligibility criteria for all of your job candidates. So we'll be taking a look at that in the demonstration. Now, one thing that I wanted to highlight for the deployments of the application, we can deploy in a minimum of 3 weeks. Now, because of the global pandemic, there was a increase. We noticed a spike in the need to have a grievance process in place, because companies did not want to go through any kind of claims associated with this process, and this was just something that we noticed there was a high demand for, and everybody wanted an urgent timeline. So our minimum deployment timeline was 3 weeks with the very basic function of grievance management, and then after that we would do further deployment in increments. The great thing is there's no prerequisites required as part of this implementation. So we did have a prerequisite at first, but now we've taken those out, and that makes the process really simple for our customers. Here's just some business results and, policy improvements, claims costs, and improvement in reporting and operational efficiency, which comes with the deployment of the labor relations module. Now, I just checking here to see if there's any questions. So we're going to actually quickly look at a few screens here just to see, sorry, I've timed out, how we perform these, some of the functions that we highlighted earlier in the presentation. As you can see, this is the employee profile manager. So I mentioned with the job bidding process, we have the ability to set up any kind of qualification criteria, and this could be anything from any training that your employee should have taken, or it could be any other kind of, maybe they shouldn't have any disciplines. So whatever that qualification criteria is, this is where I could come as a manager, look at any attachments that the employee has made, if they've acquired any of these trainings, and approve this qualification criteria, or I could maybe assign a new qualification criteria to each one of my employees, or different, use certain job codes to do the assignment and to do a mass push of that criteria to those employees. So there's different ways that you can handle that, and you can have an effective date and an expiration date. So that's how you're managing that. Now, once we are processing our job bids, we're looking at that qualification criteria along with a whole bunch of other parameters, as you can see here, the classification, the seniority of the employee, which we can calculate, lots of different parameters that we can look at. And what the system does in the job bidding process is it highlights all the qualifying candidates and leaves them at the top of the page for me to offer them the job or award them the job by doing further research. So automating that whole process. This is an example of the seniority portal. As you can see, these are all the different unions that we can look at, and each union has different ways that it's calculating the seniority of their employees. So somebody might consider the service hours, and others might consider their seniority hours. So all of that information that we can bring in, and we can use formulas, a calculation rule engine in the back end to make these calculations. For the process of grievances, I mentioned we can define the timeline for processing these grievances in the administrative console. We can include anybody who is not part of your core HR, any employees who are not part of your core HR. For example, union representatives, I could identify those in my administrative console. And as I go through my grievance steps, basically giving you an easy to use, highly configurable screen, which you could go through and input all this data, which can be emailed to all the attendees for sign off, doing extension of dates, so automatically defaulting those dates for the next step meetings based on the timelines that you have defined based on the union rules. And then also giving you the ability to extend those dates, integrating with Outlook, updating those statuses, as each meeting takes place in real time to notify all the parties that are involved. This is our time and attendance specific rules. This is for disciplines. And again, I mentioned this is for automation, but this is just something that's very basic with disciplines, but we do have more advanced disciplinary processes, which I'm very happy to demonstrate to you in more detail in a follow-up conversation. But yeah, so as you can see here, we have all of our different types of disciplines here. And let's say this employee is absent 4 times in a month, then they should automatically get their first written warning, and 8 absences would lead to a 1-day suspension. Whatever those rules are, we can automate them here, and then the next time the system tracks that the employee is absent again, it will automatically issue the next disciplinary step, allowing for consistency across the systems. And then again, all of this information that we are capturing is available in any type of report that you desire. Now, this one is a cost analysis of all the different unions, all the resolutions and settlement costs. And again, you have drill down capabilities. You can look at a particular date range. You can filter based on grievance types. And all of this information, you can then switch between graphical and tabular reports as well. So I can look at the same cost analysis in a graph. And I did mention we have ad hoc reporting capabilities as well, where you could select the data points which are relevant to you, and you can generate a new report by adding sorts and filters to that report. The same capabilities as Microsoft Excel, giving you full flexibility. This is for somebody who is maybe creating a lot of reports on the fly. So it allows you to manage those reports in a dynamic reporting tool, allowing you to define your own reports, default reports, and also share them with your team members if required. What we are seeing on the screen right now is a dashboard report, and this is more for an executive level report. Maybe I'm just quickly going into a meeting and I want to quickly glance at my phone, and I can get this nice cards view to get some key analytics and matrix. This one, for example, is doing a cost analysis of all the different types of claims. I can do a geographical analysis of what area I'm getting all of my reports from, my grievances from. You can look at pie charts, and again, you can switch between graphical and tabular reports to look at some trends. So really, really neat reports. That's just nice and colorful, and you can quickly look at it. I do see a question. Can you please let us know if emails can be stored in this tool in relation to each grievance, for example, if they expire? We can, so we do have a notes section where all the conversation which is happening between the employee and the manager, or maybe just within the management team, and we can define those rules if this is something that could be accessed by the employee or the union, or if it's just internally within the management. So there's a notes section where you could log all the communication that's taking place. Either you could send emails right from there, type of the emails, and it sends a notification, and it keeps a log of all the dates. It timestamps it, so you can always go back and look at what went out. But that's all outbound. Otherwise, you also have the ability to just have your email communication separately, and you can just come in and upload that into the tool. So from the tool, we only support outbound, but if there's external communication, you always have the ability to come in and upload it just for record-keeping purposes. And then on the later portion, you said if they expire. So I'm not, if you could elaborate on that, I'm happy to answer that. But you mean that the grievance has already, it's from the past, and you want to make sure that the information is already there for us to search upon? If that's the question, then yes, the information will always be, historic information will always be stored in the system, and you can always go back and search back in time by doing simple keyword searches. Okay. And let me know if there's any other questions. I have covered all the content that I wanted to show to you. Again, I'm just displaying my information right onto the screen here, so that you could quickly note this down if you want to schedule a follow-up, a detailed demonstration. Happy to do that. So you can let me know. All right. And if there aren't any other questions, then we're going to stop recording, and thank you so much for listening in. And we look forward to hearing from you.